meeting of the President of the Board of Trustees to order at 7:02. On the roll, Trustee Foreman.
Here.
Trustee Letzker.
Here.
Trustee Curry.
Here.
Trustee Hagan. Here. And Trustee Klumstein. Here. Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
From the floor, Mr. Keel.
Okay, as we all know, the township redirected their water from Alexander Drive to the Wood area to the north area, which is fine. But now there's a house there, and the basement is flooded. So, I don't know what the owner of the house is going to have to do, but that water can't be redirected to that area anymore because it's flooding the houses.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I had heard about this a little bit earlier this week. We're going to have Tim look into that. I mean, as you know, they can't displace water and push it off somewhere else. But the one thing I find kind of interesting is, in the middle of a drought, I don't know where this water's coming from. It leads me to wonder if there's a spring that's hit.
Well, there is
That's
a
where the
spring.
water-
There's a spring there in the township park where it always ran off. It
Yeah.
used to run off on
Okay.
Alexander, and now it's going towards the houses, what
Yeah.
Mr. Keel is saying.
So we'll have Tim look into that.
If I can interject something, not city.
So that the water, it's, the basement's flooded right now?
No, they put pea gravel in with visqueen on it today.
Yes.
So one of the models that are going up by KLM.
Yeah, the KLM model right across from.
Lot 70 across from my
Right.
house is the one Len's talking about that's taking on some water right now in the basement. They've been working on it every day. I've seen them out there doing it, but I'm not sure how they're addressing it.
Okay.
But they haven't rained obviously for months, and that water's not, it's percolating.
No, unless there's sometimes a spring right in the basement.
Maybe a sprinkler.
We'll have
If I
to
can
look at
change-
it.
if I can change subject real quick. My grandson, 14, had a COVID shot Saturday. It was fine. Make a long story short, he is now in Luther General for the third day with heart enzymes out of shape.
Oh.
So anybody who has a teenage child will look to see what's going on with this COVID with the kids.
With Pfizer?
Pfizer.
Pfizer.
Yeah, that's
Sorry to hear
been
that.
Sorry, Len.
on the news, sorry to hear that one. But thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, just think about it.
Thank
Boy,
you.
it's teenagers.
Right. Which there's a push to get all those kids vaccinated.
Anyhow, thank you.
I hope you get well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon.
Scared.
How long has he been at Lutheran General?
Since Monday morning,
And when did he get this shot?
Saturday.
Second shot first.
No, it says Pfizer's one shot, right?
No, it's two.
No, it's two.
Was it
J&J's.
the first
Oh,
one?
J&J.
Or was it
So it's the second
Or
shot.
the second
Second
one.
shot.
Second shot.
His heart enzymes are supposed to be 0.1, they're 20.
Did he have any other pre-existing conditions?
No,
Not that they
no, we don't.
And how old is he?
14.
14?
Any other symptoms other than that, like fever?
He was just tired. Severe chest pains, but he studies, was 14 and, I've had a heart attack. Okay, Luther Jones, here we go.
Yeah.
Wow, sorry.
Well, he's in a good place, that's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
They're great.
Anybody who's going to put the teenager, investigate what the parameters are. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Len. Motion to approve the omnibus agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Foreman, seconded by trustee Letzker. Discussion on the motion. Anything you want pulled? Anybody want pulled? With there being none on the roll, trustee Foreman?
Aye.
Trustee Letzker?
Aye.
Trustee Curry?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
And trustee Clemson?
Aye.
Motion carried. I have nothing on the president's report. New business, does anybody have any new business that they'd like to bring up?
I have
Claudette?
I have old business.
Oh, well, okay, we're not there yet, but okay, old business.
I sent you guys an email earlier today, but just for the benefit of the people from the public here that were here at the last meeting, You should have received an email from me talking about how the county is not going to close that left turn lane now at Johnsburg Road Bridge. They've been able to do a little bit more lane shifting that's going to move the impact on those deteriorating beams off of them. And so they're going to be able to continue. Basically, it's going to be the way you see it. Currently, slightly shifted to the north, and then they're going to install the tough curb, which there's an exhibit that's attached to the email I sent you, along with delineators that'll help more clearly identify where you're supposed to be traveling when you're going through that area. They had also indicated to me that they're going to be looking at alternative funding sources. Some of the delay in getting the bridge repaired has to do with the process you have to go through with through IDOT when you're using funds where IDOT oversees the project. So they're going to look to see if they have some other funding sources that might help expedite the actual replacement, but they didn't give me any type of timeline in terms of when that'll happen. I just wanted you guys to be aware because we were expecting to have a lane closure here at the end of the month, and that's not going to occur.
Good. Claudette, have they talked about anything on weight limits?
I spoke with them about that. They said at the current time now, with the way they're shifting this traffic, the travel's not going to be occurring on the affected beams. I don't know why. That wasn't something they looked at prior to talking about closing it down. But so at this point, they don't feel that that's necessary, but they'll continue to monitor it.
Are they still saying 2 years for engineering? I hope.
Well, what they're saying is if they use different funding sources, if they can tap another source, they wouldn't have to go through the IDOT process, and it wouldn't delay them as long as it would. You know, they'll still have to go through engineering, obviously, but
Right.
there's a lot of steps involved when you have IDOT involved with it.
Okay.
Great news.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Move to approve ordinance 21-22-04, annexing certain property commonly known as 2110 Woodland Park Drive into the village. Is everybody aware of what that is? 17th, oh? Okay. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Clemstein, seconded by trustee Hagan. Any discussion? Trustee Clemstein?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Curry?
Aye.
Trustee Letzker?
Aye.
Trustee Foreman?
Aye.
Motion carried. Great. Budget presentation.
Okay, ta-da. Let me grab a couple lights here or so.
Beth might want to come up over here too.
I'll
because I don't think she's...
Yeah, Beth, if you
Yeah,
want to move over
here.
here.
I'll go over in that corner.
If you want to sit in there,
Well, there's one right next to Vinnie there.
That's true, yep.
Scott, you can see okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You can turn this
Okay.
light off too, if you want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can read my notes and stuff like that too. Who has the clicker?
I think Vinnie's controlling it.
Okay, just tell you next slide when I'm ready.
Whatever's easiest for you.
All right, let's jump. Well, first things first, thank you again for coming tonight for the fiscal year 2022 budget presentation. First, I want to thank Claudette and Becky for putting a lot of time and effort putting this. So they presented the slides tonight and everything else, and they got that together. So staff, thank you again, Claudette and Becky. Thank you for your efforts on that. Also want to thank the Finance Committee. We've looked through this budget, how many times, Becky? 3 or 4 times now, so we went through this many times to go through it. So I didn't hear any questions from, I met with Becky and Claudette yesterday. I don't know if any other questions came up today, but if you guys had any questions, we didn't hear anything in advance. So we'll go through the slides. I'm talking a little slower tonight. I can speed it up if you want. So
Just stay like you are.
Stay like we are, okay. So we'll keep it as a relaxed
No
mode.
races.
No races, a relaxed mode, but I want to make sure to ask any questions when slides come up. Claudette and Becky are here to jump into what I know now as well too, that you kind of the answers. So we'll go to the next slide. So the 2021 highlights, first things first is obviously COVID, right? So we'll talk about the things. So we're pretty much on target with some of the revenues and stuff too. Some of our expenditures were down obviously because we couldn't do certain events. But actually a lot of the money came in. We're just showing you in future slides and that stuff. But, obviously we acquired the bonds for the David D. Dominguez Municipal Facility. Acquired bonds for the North Sanitary Sewer Extension. Remember, we were scared when we were going to do that because we didn't know what COVID was going to bring. So now, look where we are today. We got rates at a really good price and everything else too, so that was great that we did that. So we secured $3 million in grants for Riverside Drive and Johnsburg Road. Thank you, Claudia, for some of the grants and stuff that were written to get that, the sidewalks. Secured $500,000 grants for North Sewer Sanitary Expansion. Secured $750,000 grants for the Church Street Johnsburg Road realignment, which will be coming in a little bit with that. that as well too. And then also the QRS funding, we got $260,000 from the bill as well too. Good, next slide. Also from other levels, we did the playground equipment at Rescue Squad Park. We donated funds from an individual for that. Completed the basketball courts at improvements at Sunnyside Park. Pursued improvements to the 19-hole orchard and pump house at the Chapel Hill Golf Course. Resurfaced the roads, installed new street signs at Sunnyside and Jack and Heights subdivision. Extended sewers on Middle Avenue and Stubby Avenue. So we're continually trying to do after our sewer projects and some of our improvements. Established an SSA for Sunnyside Beach road improvements. We were all here for those meetings last year, and issued permits for Berkshire of Johnsburg development, which will help us significantly for our water usage and our sewer usage, because we're getting all those taps. So that's very important to our vision for Johnsburg as well too. Fiscal year end revenues. I won't go through these, but if you guys want to stare at the slide for a second here, so you can see certain things. We're going to have a different slide, kind of adding things up coming forward, but you can see some things are up and down. So you're going to say, well, what happened with COVID? It was just a different year, you know, so when you look at some of those things. But obviously, income tax is up. You know, sales tax is down a little bit, but we still got 99% sales tax. So obviously, things offset that, you know, like vehicle and boat launch stuff, and people, you know, getting the permits for their UTVs and golf carts. You know, if we had UTV golf cart discussion, the audience would be packed. But I'm joking, but it's just seeing some of the stuff that's going on in the village today as well happening with that too. Obviously, video gaming is down because of what's going on with people with COVID can go out as well too. So we'll hit the next line. So a little bit too, that was our budget in year end. So you guys can see that for total revenue. So we actually came about. So some people asking the public what happened, you know, when things are up or down. We kind of showed you some of those slides for that too. So obviously, you know, fines, fees, and licenses, people are working on their house, they're coming out, we're getting more of those fees coming in too, with that as well too. Video gaming obviously is down, we know that wise, but the recent projections we're getting in, we'll talk about the 2022 year, they're actually doing much better now, with the $4 on some of the gaming machines, Axle machine too, so a lot of things are going in advancement too. The grants, obviously year end, we got money budgeted in, but we weren't able to use it, so that's part of the reason why you don't see the grant money coming as well too. Okay, any questions? Go to the next slide. Okay. So we'll look at the general expenditures. So we were down actually in expenditures, obviously, because what happened with COVID. We couldn't do certain events, so Beth's group's going to do things on community affairs, everything else too, so we weren't able to spend that. We also did spend money with the Johnsburg Bucks and different things too, so we tried to offset some of that too, and some of these line items you're seeing as well too. We did spend more on road improvements, and we did a good job on some extra debt retirement too as well in there. Obviously, we were down with the expenditures of sales tax rebatements because obviously some numbers were down with COVID as well. Any questions on this slide? Go to the next one. Thanks, Nate. Thank you, sir. And looking at this, so this is the motor fuel tax coming in and stuff too. So year end is a little higher. We think quite a bit. We got some additional money, right, coming in on the motor fuel tax.
We received some rebuild Illinois bonds, and those dollars are actually being set aside because they can only be used on a capital infrastructure improvement project. It can't be used for resurfacing. So we're actually setting those dollars aside for our portion of Riverside Drive's project. There'll be some that's not covered by the grant, and that'll help fund our portion.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can see the other funds, of course, the golf course. This year we did a much better job. We didn't have as much expenditures on there, so as we did in years past. So we're kind of getting that lease money and money coming in. We're getting very close to trying to do a break even on the golf course approach. Land and building, obviously you can see the revenues are way up, and we're going to see this year as well too, as we're working on building this new village hall and police station here as well too.
Can I point something out
Yes,
real quick
please,
too?
go ahead.
Under waterworks and sewage too, in the revenues year end, just so if you're wondering like, well, what's that number including? It not only reflects the bond dollars that came in to support the project, but it also reflects the sewer connection fees for Berkshire.
Gotcha. The expenses are down because we just didn't put as much into...
The project really didn't kick off yet.
Okay.
The North Sewer Extension project's just starting now.
So as
it'll
we
get
see
carried
it,
over.
so 2022 we'll see these expenditures carry forward.
Correct.
And that's right too. Thank you, Gladys, for clarifying. Next slide, please. Okay. So any questions on 2021 that you guys have? Because we probably answered these questions now, so we jump into 2022. So this will be going forward 2022. So we'll jump to the next slide. So here's the fiscal budget. It was presented to you guys, so it's a much larger budget than last year. But obviously we have a lot of things going on. We're going to be doing, you know, the sewer extensions. We're going to be doing the village hall, police station here. So you have a lot of bigger things coming into as well. So we have some grant money coming into there. So you can kind of see some of the more things. So sales tax, So we are being conservative when we're trying to guess numbers too, or not guess, but put estimates, and we have pretty good functionality of what the money is coming in with sales tax as well too on there. Real estate taxes we might see those go up with, obviously, we're being very conservative with the CPI adjustments on these, but obviously, I'm being in real estate, knowing what's happening with prices of homes when they reassess this year, when it goes through the essential assessment, we might see even higher real estate taxes come back in for us as well too. But we'd rather be on the conservative side, not overspend on something or overestimate on that later.
Can I ask a question about sales tax? Is the Walmart obligation
This year,
over 2022?
it'll be done. I want to say,
2021.
yeah, the number is like 139,000 this year, then we're done.
Yep, yep. So we'll have that coming in there. We'll talk about that. That's a great question, Beth. We'll talk about that in the 10-year projection. So we have some good numbers, and I'll help us with our forward projection of that too. And so on the expenditure side, you can see some of this stuff, obviously public safety, we're spending a decent amount for the police force, everything else too. We're just generally raising up that. We are putting more money into reserves this year, which is good as well too, and to the capital fund too, right, Claudia?
Well, actually, the police pension, I do want to point that out. So this closeout for fiscal year '21, our contributions to reserves is $75,000. And as part of our long-term plan, we projected this year we jump up to the 155, and we're going to be able to do that. In addition to that, the police pension contribution jumped up considerably too in this year. Last year was $137,000. You see, we're setting aside $207,000 this year. So we're meeting our obligations as we projected we'd be doing, and still balancing our budget.
Right. We're trying to catch up. Well, you have a slide later talking about police pension as well. We'll go through that as well with you guys, but that makes a great point. So we're trying to catch up, obviously, because we need to get that margin moving back up, so we don't have a short.
Quickly too,
Yep.
are we waiting on any more funds that are being held by the state? I mean, I know that they were conservative with what they were doling out, so is there anything left over from them?
From the state, no. And actually, if any of you heard the talk about how the local distribution fund, that they were talking about only giving us 10% versus 11%, they did not do that. So we're going to get the full amount. The only thing that we should have on our radar is, even as recent as today, I've been in communications with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. That's the agency that's governing the 2 grants we got that Senator Wilcox aided in getting us. They've assured me that the turnaround time, because you have to pay the bill, submit for reimbursement, is 30 days. So we'll have to monitor that real close and hope that they meet that commitment that they say they're going to meet. But
Okay.
Also, Claudia, too, that the state is looking to take over the funding, kind of like IRMRF too with this, right? So eventually, there's been some talk downstate.
with IMRF, no.
Not IRMRF, separately. They'd do a police pension, not like at our level, they would combine all funds and earmarks into that.
They've talked about that. I don't know if they're going to see movement on that, because I know there's a lot of concerns from communities like us who, for the most part, yes, we're trying to bridge that gap, but we're far healthier in our police pension than a lot of communities. So you're going to see people like Johnsburg go, don't mix us up with everybody else's mess. We'd rather control ours.
It seems like that's always the solution.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, throw all the good guys under the bad guys.
Yeah, right.
And try to average it out. That's the problem.
Right.
The good pulling the bad out.
Right.
And I know the talk is that they would still we would still be looked at on our own standing, but the pool of funds altogether could get a better rate of return and so on and so forth. I'm not feeling all warm and fuzzy about that,
Yeah.
It might sound good, but whether or not that's actually what happens is a different
Right,
thing.
that'd be the only benefit Claudia's bringing up. So we won't go into that more, but there's 4 tiers for the police pension. I think we're in still tier 2, right, Claudia, right now?
I believe we are.
So it's how much money you have in the account, so you can get a little bit more riskier with your investments as you get into tier 3 and tier 4. So hopefully it would go down. So that'd be one of the benefits we would get, but obviously you're lumping your money as well too. So we have to be careful of that strategy, but when we're in tier 1, we can only put things like cash equivalents earning less than 1%. So people are questioning why isn't the funds growing as fast as they should. State limited after the last recession that we couldn't invest the money at a higher rate. Okay. Any other questions on the slide? Next slide.
I'd like to point out too, with public safety, also with it being higher, the squad car for this past year, fiscal year 21, time to come in, so it's rolled over, so that is also another reason the budget's a little bit higher.
Thank you. Okay, next slide. So we're looking at the motor fuel tax revenue fund balance, so you can see that the revenue coming in. Obviously, we're going to have more money coming in. Claudia had mentioned we got stuff coming in as well for that. Also, fuel tax is up too, right? So it's that's more of a return and people are driving more after COVID, so we're probably gonna get more MFT funds coming our way, as that comes there too.
The $69,000 in surplus represents those Build Illinois bonds that we're setting aside. There's a total of 6 payments. We've received 4 of them, so we have 2 more, and then we'll be completed with that.
Perfect. Thank you, Glenn. Any questions on this one? Okay, so waterworks and sewage fund revenues. So remember last year we kind of started breaking, we're not taking money from the general fund, and paying into the sewer system, so now it's kind of supporting itself. Obviously, we still have to get to paying more money into the capital fund to support it eventually over time, but we can take on more usage in that facility right now concerning. So the more sewer hookups we can get to water is usually how the village makes money on the general and the other side. So as much water we can sell is actually a good thing, even though we're not a profit or government entity, but that's how you look at sewer sometimes to do that. So you can kind of see all the funds coming back through with the amount in there too. Any questions about it, or Becky, anything to add on this or so?
No, the only thing I would point out is the sewer improvement that you see down there, $3.5 million. That reflects the North Sewer extension that we bonded.
Yep.
It also reflects the $500,000 that Senator Wilcox helped us acquire, which is going to also go towards this other area. And it also reflects the stimulus money that's coming out of the federal, at the federal level. That money can only be used on certain projects, on water and sewer improvements. It can't be used, and that's almost $800,000. So that's why that number is so large. Obviously, we'll continue talking about where our priorities are going to be. As a matter of fact, the sewer group is meeting this week to talk a little bit more so we can come back and make a recommendation. We have some ideas, but we haven't finalized that yet.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So the golf course fund revenues, we saw that from the last couple slides there too, and then also the expenditures. So we have a little bit of surplus of $274, but at the same time you're looking at it, we are running pretty close to our revenue source. So you figure 20 years we'll have all this paid off from a lease source. Basically, we're getting all that land at that price, which is really good. So people ask about how close, it's close, it's almost balanced.
You're not raising taxes to do it.
We're not raising taxes to do it. If that's on the street, that's not true.
Comes up every once in a while.
Rick?
And without COVID this year, you probably would not have had any deficit, because it adversely affected the revenue because of
We lost a month and a half.
the governor decided he was king and shut it down.
Right. And they seem to be busy over there. I've been driving, I'm not a golfer, but they seem to be pretty busy. We kind of have a drought a little bit, but I mean, obviously I still see people like golf out there. So,
It definitely looks like it's being used very well.
yes. Yeah, people are out there all the time when I drive by. It's super.
Talk about that later.
Okay, sorry. Next slide. Land and building. Okay, so obviously we're going to have a huge, balance for it, because obviously we're doing the police facility and the village hall, obviously the balance for it, so that's coming from the bond revenue. Then of course the D&G construction, you see it's taking out the $3.7 million in furnishings and engineering. So a lot of our money is going this year into this facility here with that too.
Sure, I do want to point out one thing. You see in their transfer from general fund on the revenue side, part of that is made up of the money that we acquired from selling the police department. It also includes some of the village hall impact fees, this is exactly what those are supposed to be used for, building expansion.
Right.
And it also includes some capital fund money towards some of the computers and different things that are going to be needed. Obviously we need a new server here, serving the whole police department and administration side, so that those monies are in capital funds. So that's what's coming out of the general fund to help support it.
Thank you. Any questions? Capital projects. So obviously we're going to be doing a lot this year. We didn't do as many last year, given the COVID and everything else too. So a lot of things are coming this year with capital projects and purchases. So, and Becky brought up from the carryover for the Dodge Charger there from 2021. So you can see that as well coming in there too. So, but we're going to be busy. We've got a lot of stuff going on this year. It's a big budget. We've got a lot of capital improvements going into capital projects. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Go to the next slide. Thank you. just want to point out, thank you to, Claudette and staff for the grant funding. So it's really important. A lot of villages and cities are not getting these opportunities, so we're very fortunate to be getting a lot of these things too. But you can see the safe routes to school, sidewalk improvement down Chapel Hill, so I think it's really nice. I actually walked that when we did the Memorial Day Parade, thank you, this year, they tripped over some rocks, trying to get to the bridge, so it's nice to have that. So I'm very happy with that. So Church Street with the two echo projects, there too, and our, with the Fox River sewer extension, so you can see that we're getting some of the funding coming into that as well too.
The sidewalks are nice, so Claudette.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, very quickly you saw more people walking up and down that
Oh.
stretch of road all of a sudden.
So nice.
Feeling safer,
We
out
used it
riding,
for-
you know?
We used it for Memorial Day.
Yeah, it was good.
So much better.
Oh, yeah.
So much better.
Did any of the residents complain about losing any part of their front yards or anything like that?
They were, the perception that it was their front yard, you know, that it
Everybody
actually is in its
admits
right of way.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of people, I think, that did call and they were like, what are you doing in my front yard? And I was like, yeah, that's the county's right of way, it's not your
Yeah.
front yard. But the county wanted that pushed as far away from the road as it possibly could,
Good
so we
idea.
had it on the back end of the right of way.
Another thing, that our timing's been perfect because all those septics were in the front yard. So that project couldn't even happen.
Oh, yeah.
If the sewer wasn't put in, and we did that,
Mhm.
maybe 3-4 years ago.
Right.
We were working on all those projects, and Tim constantly tries to bring us up to date, you know. I think we really want to see the Fairview project go from, the bridge down Fairview to hook up with the other Fairview sidewalks by the library. And, the next little piece is the Spring Grove Road from Johnsburg Road up to Church Street, so all those loops are hooked together then.
And the walkability, we want to
Yeah.
envision.
And you see people using them all the time.
Yeah.
What's the Fox River sewer extension? Where
That's one, we talked about some ideas that we have with that additional money. That's a concept that we're thinking of, we're going to discuss further, and that would be whether or not those funds should be utilized to put that backbone infrastructure under the bridge to eventually.
Under the
go to
river.
Yeah, under the
Under
river, rather.
Under the river.
Yeah.
Under the river and the
But-
pumping station on the other side.
We're gonna talk further about that, whether it's that project or another, you guys will have to decide what makes the most sense, but our thoughts are that might be a good place to invest that money.
Yeah, yeah. That improved a lot of values over there.
Yeah,
That's where
absolutely.
they have really small lots on the water.
Plus, you have two fairly good-sized businesses there that, like if the old bowling alley really wants to open up and they want to have the restaurant there and the Karen and everything, they can't open up only pieces of it because of the sewer.
Right.
So they need the sewer, so if we had that there, that maybe would open up an opportunity there. We'll also open up an opportunity for the wave, there's 18 acres there that could be developed into something, and, maybe someday that hotel can be a viable thing, the restaurant can be valuable, or we can get a path down Orchard Beach and to our golf course, so it can make it a destination,
Sure.
All ideas, and they all take time, but that's how we got this far.
True.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and
that's
that-
your bills.
Yep.
For the
Should
100
build those
acres
properties
on the north side there, that's totally,
Right.
if they had sewer over there, that would be totally different.
Chapel Estates right there, that line they're trying to sell too, right? So they can't move anything on that. That's
Chapel Estates, what?
In front of Chapel.
That's commercial property they can't sell.
And getting, along the river has always been our goal.
Like River Terrace and all those
River
areas
Terrace.
down there, yeah.
And there's back there where, I don't know how you ever dry out down there in Oakland subdivision along the river.
True.
But, you have 60-foot lots and 60 foot to the river and everybody's got septics on them, how you ever gonna dry that area out?
Some are in floodplains too.
Unless we get over there,
Yeah. Good point. Thank you to the Claudette staff for that. So the budget projection, so that you guys all got in your handout, not that I expect anybody to read the slides up there, but this is our 10-year projection. So I'm going to turn this over to Claudette to walk through this a little bit, because she presented the slide, and Becky, you got those too, but we'll go through the dates and then kind of looking, this is their projection out to 2030.
Yeah, I think some of the key things, first off, I want to point out, this report actually has been firmed up a little bit with more detail tied directly to the capital fund. When you go through here, you'll be like, okay, well, why are we seeing years not money coming in on the revenue end? I actually went through and tied everything that is slated in a given year as an assumed expenditure for that year. and then reflected the money coming in for it. So this is an exact tie to the capital plan, which I will send you an extra copy so you guys can see it. So I think this is about as exact as we possibly can get. Keep in mind, too, that there is oftentimes we have a vehicle or something planned for a given year, but perhaps it's in great shape and we're like, you know what, let's keep it. Doesn't mean we have to go out just because it's slated in 2025 to be replaced, run and replace it. So I think this really gives us a very good conservative feel of where we're at, assuming all expenditures. It continues to show you the increase in the contributions to the reserve, way down at the bottom. You see a significant increase in the transfers that we're going to be doing long-term to the capital fund. Let's face it, the infrastructure that we have is only going to get more costly to replace. So it's really important. We can't just look at it today and say, okay, we put $200,000 a year away. Well, 5 years from now, what costs $200,000 now costs $300,000. So we're going to continue to increase that. We also are increasing we get out a little bit further and we start paying off some of our debt, we increase even more of our contributions towards road resurfacing. That's obviously been a real important goal of ours, to increase the amount of roads we're resurfacing. I know that Davey and the guys are doing a great job getting more life out of those roads because we're taking a little bit of a different approach. Rather than just simply saying, oh, there's a few potholes, this subdivision, it's time to resurface it, we're saying, no, let's do some good cut and patch, let's get some life out of these roads and do something that makes more sense. Given the cost to resurface these days, that's definitely a wiser approach. The debt retirement numbers that you see in there, you see that we're rolling in the new debt service for the sewer water bonds that we pull down, along with the building bond that we pull down. So we're projecting all of that in our long-term plans. And let me see what else I want. Increases in police pension. But I think the important thing to notice, under debt retirement, the pink highlighted one, the one that ends first, that's the bond that we pulled down for the sewer plant. So it's hard to believe that it's actually getting ready to be paid off. And obviously, you see the Walmart Economic Incentive Agreement is done and after 2022. So a lot of people say, okay, well, where's that money going? That we no longer have to pay Walmart. Well, for the most part, it's being directed at our reserves, at our capital fund, and at road infrastructure improvements, which definitely have been priorities for us the past 10, 15, 20 years. Right. Anyone have any questions about this report? I know it's a lot of numbers and a lot to look at. We make some assumptions, increases in revenues of about 2% and increases of expenditures about 2%. So I don't think we're being unrealistic anticipating revenues and assuming everything remains flat on the expenditure end. We know that things are just going to cost more as time goes on, and we're anticipating that in this projection.
Right. How quickly are we going to catch up on the police pension contribution?
This should be basically, by the time that we're in 2030, we should be at our place of meeting our obligation rather than trying to reimburse the fund of what's owed to it from previous years.
But until then, we're still running a little bit of a...
And some of that obviously goes into, like, we have an officer retiring this year, so obviously that's going to change the actuarial report coming around the next year. So that's a moving target all the time.
Oh, yeah, and it will be forever, but...
Yep. But this puts us on target. This is the plan that Kim, along with the Finance Committee, put into place, and we obviously adjust it and everything as we get new actuarial reports. But we're on target.
But it's on target.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's what we were saying for the last 4 or 5 years.
I can't reinforce enough. I mean, just if you look at this year, going from 137 to 207, that's a pretty significant increase in 1 year that we're jumping that up. And it's a commitment we made, and we're sticking to it. So
One of
you
the
guys
things
should be proud of that.
too that I think Claudette mentioned with Davey doing the cut and patching and stuff, that enabled us to get some of the road grants because they said that we were proactive and we did those things. We got points for that. When we went in, we got the points for that. That's what got us the money instead of somebody else. So it was a big deal that was done. And then we took that
absolutely
approach.
Right.
Not for the longevity until make them last longer, until we had, the Walmart and stuff where we got the revenues that we can put forward. But because of that cutting and patching, it helped us get the points that we needed to get the grants for resurfacing. So it was a good approach by Claudette and Tim and Davey, or Tim Hartman's recommendation and Davey's, and then it was a good deal.
The Council of Mayors changed their approach towards how they were getting points on their methodology. It used to be people had the thought that, oh, if I let my road go to heck and it's god awful, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, here's a real need, we got to get these people money. And instead they're saying, no, if you allow that to happen, you've been negligent, you're going to actually get penalized because of that. So if you show that you're reasonably maintaining your roads, trying to get as much life out of it, you get extra points. And that's what that's talking about.
So it was a big help.
Any questions for Claudette?
Claudette, for, under Public Works from 29 to 30, there's like $158,000 jump there.
Yes.
What do we anticipate?
Let me see what was that. What that takes into consideration is when we see an increase like purchasing a car, or a truck rather. So as you see moving through like 29 to 30, there, if you see in 29, even if you look on the transfer from capital fund, there's nothing slated to be purchased as a capital item, meaning like a 5-year truck in 29. So in 30, all of a sudden, we do have a 5-year truck, and that's what you're seeing jump up so high in that.
And Parks and Building?
Parks and Buildings actually had 100,000 slated, let me take a look at the capital plan real quick, in 30 for,
Summer placement.
I want to say, what was that for? Just give me a moment. That's a facility. That was slated for Public Works interior improvements. Now, whether or not that'll actually be something we need to do or not, that remains to be seen, but it's included in the capital fund, so I've identified it in there along with the revenue to support it.
Thank you.
Even on Public Works, we've taken a very conservative approach as far as how we blacktop the front. And we don't go down the side, we're trying to go around it. Naturally, getting all that stuff done is easier for snow removal, plus the dirt that goes in and out of the buildings. The guys cleaning up all the time, so, I mean, those things are gonna be, you're gonna see that in the budget as we move forward.
Absolutely.
Also, too, guys, I want to bring up, when we look at projections from a financial standpoint, as you get out to 29, 30, we're going, these are numbers we might have capital improvements coming, but the stretch to this is a lot harder. We don't know when recessions come, inflation, there's a lot of things we can't project. With a year or two, like, probably 1 to 2, 3 years is probably the best you can project. Sometimes we're just trying to give a projection of what's going to happen with certain funds, like the Walmart money and everything else, too. But it's harder to project if you get farther out of the way, because the chance of that happening is less. But it's a projection, so.
But the good thing that this shows is, in the event of a recession coming long-term, you see the dollars that are being set aside between reserves and in the capital fund. We certainly could weather those storms, because we're setting ourselves up to be able to handle that.
Good point, thank you. Any other questions? I know this is a large slide.
And sure, as you go through it, you'll have more questions.
Yeah.
Feel free to give me a call, but ultimately, whether it's equipment, vehicles, that's within these budget numbers from the capital fund. So that's where you're seeing these crazy fluctuations in a certain department.
Perfect. Any questions? Okay.
Question, just on my curiosity. On page 12 out of 25 on our report, on the general fund, there is a line item of Julie locates for a budget of $525. Julie is a free locating service. Is this something for private?
We have to pay, we actually pay Julie. So when you call for locates, you as an individual,
Correct.
we get charged for every locate
The village.
of notification that they make to us, yes. So as a utility company, they notify us that we have to go out and do a marking, and we get charged for the number each year. So yes, it's free to the consumer, but the utility company pays a fee for Julie to administer that.
Okay. That's a good question. Any other questions?
Cannabis tax.
What's that?
Cannabis tax.
We get revenue for that.
Yes, you do.
Excellent.
You knew there was a reason we supported that, right?
That's right. We just need somebody local, they want to, so we can charge our regular tax.
Right.
That would do, be even better. So here's the capital plan, so we did have some conversation about that, but I went through some of the other things too as well with this, but you can see on here. the reserve balance, where we're pulling across on the slide.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we made more contributions. There wasn't a lot of expenditures. There was only $31,000 in expenditures this year. Part of that was the radios. If you recall, we upgraded all the police radios. And then there were some laptops that were pulled out from equipment. But other than that, the vehicle for the police department got delayed, so we're seeing 2 hit this year. But, you know, if we continue to
Might not
grow
even
that
get them
one-
this year, the way it's going.
Yeah, right?
Right, because you can't get supply because of COVID, so. Any questions?
But there's actually quite a lot this year. If you look in there, there's 5-yard, there's skid steer, there's 2 vehicles. There's quite a few things coming out of the capital fund this year.
Yeah.
That's why it's important that we keep replenishing it, because we'll have those years where it's high and then other years where it's not so much.
Right. Depreciate, get it done. So, any other questions on the capital plan? Okay, next slide, Penny. Okay, so some conversations came up today already on the police pension fund. So Becky, I know you had a little bit to talk about some of the numbers. I know you brought it to the finance committee as well too. Why some of the numbers looked a little, maybe tell them what happened with the projections on that too, would be great.
So I thought this was a good analysis. This is all from the actuarial reports from the auditors at year-end. You can see that there's definitely a good trend of our funding going forward, but we will note the one thing Grant was saying. For fiscal year 2021, they have started to change their ways of doing the actuarial reports. They're starting to take into account a spouse as well, the life expectancy of a spouse. They take it into thinking that the spouse is generally 3 years younger, and then the mortality rate for them as well. So we did see a little bit of the number change between 21 and 20, but still significantly trending on for it. So you'll see how much funded from our good value assets are up higher and keep going up, so hopefully we can continue with these trends. And again, we are right on track with the funding for the police pension.
Becky, on these recommended contributions, who is doing the recommended?
That would be it's the actuarial report done by Lauterbach and Eamon, and they base that off of the police force, the number of people, and then that's what they request or recommend that you contribute, so, and then what they think the payroll will be.
What's the difference between actual payroll and expected payroll?
The expected payroll is what Lauterbach and Eamon made of their actuarial. The actual payroll is right out of our system.
Why are they projecting such low payroll?
Is it overtime maybe?
Yeah, I think overtime comes into effect with it, which we do get some assistance with those, but I believe with that and then different tiers of employees.
Now, we're not gonna defund the police yet.
It does seem odd though, that
That's a
year
huge
after
difference.
year,
Yeah.
$400,000 difference.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, shouldn't we just
And it's
adjust our expected to
Right.
get
Well,
closer?
They should probably be looking at that, right?
They should, yeah, if it's coming from them,
Yeah,
I mean,
say.
and again, it's actuarial, so they're using some data set to come up with this number, but it's obviously not realistic.
I think it was just a couple of years ago, Claudia, they expected officers only live till 50 or something like that. That just lets you guys know the history of this. It wasn't on the village for not funding it.
That's
Right.
why the pension.
It was really because they didn't agree. So now what Becky's bringing up, if somebody passes away, the spouse has benefits. It's like, shouldn't all this been thought of in advance, would be my question. But, I mean, it's a budget presentation tonight, not about actuarial science or finance.
They were using actuarial tables that were showing 18-20% like back in the 80s, you know, and I mean, when are we ever gonna see that again?
And you have a historical of 6 years showing it's been doing this. Why would they?
Yeah,
True.
Democrats.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
You know, life expectancy might be different in some cities or villages outside of this area, I don't know, but how they figure the averages out. But yeah, we're looking at, obviously, we're trying to make more contributions to catch this up and stuff too. But as the rules change, as the goal line changes from the 0 line to the 5-yard line, they're moving the goal line on us too, which is partly a slight situation we got to be aware of too when it comes in. So as we mentioned earlier, there's other things going on with, you know, what we get funded at. They're going to try to move this fund downstate. There's a lot of things. This is a very moving topic. I know a lot of people ask questions in town about this all the time too. Why can we not do it to, you know, do like a 403K, a 403B, or this kind of stuff? This is what is state statute. So we have to make sure that people understand that and ask questions why we can't do that as well too. Any other questions or so on this? Correct. Good question.
I just, like you said, it's very important that everybody on the board understands that, first, Johnsburg made a big commitment to even join the police pension fund.
Mhm.
And when we did exactly what we were asked to do from the beginning. And then they went and they changed the rules of the game and said, oh, you're defunded, now you gotta add more. And now it's things, once again, that now they're starting to play with the actuarial numbers again. So it's like, all that you guys can do is the best you know how to do at the time, but don't be surprised if they change the rules of the game again in 6 months, because that's historically what they've done. So it's like a sliding scale. So, I mean, I could, trying to do everything you can, but there's nothing really, nobody did anything wrong to get here.
Right. Like Rick's saying too, when people retire, we kind of can project that a little bit, but if somebody gets hurt, we've had officers get hurt in the past, then you're owing funds out of there too. So there's things we're not a huge police force, so we don't have, the numbers like a big city has, that they can kind of have a better projection of that. So we have to be nimble. If something would happen, we might have to change progress, or in your 10-year thing, something would come up. So we're doing the best we can with the projections we have today. Any questions or so? This is a big topic for years. Thank you, Benny. Questions? Any open questions, guys? I know Scott had some questions about the general thing that you guys were passed out on the line items or so too. Didn't know if you guys had any questions we went through, or the first page kind of gives a good impact of questions that are happening there too, from a high level or so too.
So just to clarify, is it this year or is it next year that Walmart's incentive?
This year.
This
We'll
year.
make one more payment to them in this fiscal year.
2022.
Yeah, the fiscal year started May 1st, so I would say probably by the fall, because we have to hold back like the first couple hundred, almost 300,000 we hold back for expenses, and then we'll make payment to them and be done.
Good. Question?
It's a big number.
It's a very big number.
Yeah, if we can attract, I don't know if it's possible now, bigger retail. We are getting more house tops, so I mean, this area is getting more house tops, rooftops, or that's what they look for. So maybe things change.
Get paid on head counts too.
Get paid on head counts, we're getting more money too.
Berkshire will help that.
Berkshire helps. Running Brook, Remington are getting developed out, so more construction comes in there, Little Springfield, whatever.
So slowly but surely, we're getting more.
We get more people. We don't know the census yet, do we, about it? Yeah.
No, we don't.
I think we always said that we didn't want a rapid growth. It was always slow and managed, and I think we're pretty lucky that way. I mean, it has been managed well, whether you call it great planning or dumb luck, whatever you want to call it, but I think it's a combination of both.
Yes.
It's great planning, and I think we've had some luck too.
Yeah. I think COVID might help our area now, because there's more growth out here. People want to be in this area, so they can work from home. We have different things. We had challenges before. We're talking about the metro station as a budget presentation, but we might see these come back in front of us again, saying, well, do you want commuter rail? There's good things where we might see in the future that we haven't seen, that because of COVID now has changed that progress, where people are very attracted to this area for its affordability, but also the open space we have and the things we offer in this village. So that's how we keep it attractive, what we can. But that's all too. Any other questions? I know it's a fun topic. So.
Did a good job.
No. The big thanks goes to Claudette.
Finance committee.
Yeah, the finance committee as well too, and thank them too. But Claudette and Becky and the finance committee, thank you for all the hard work and effort on this.
It's very well put together and it's balanced. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just one of itself.
Yeah.
A feat.
They can't do that downstate. It's 500 pages at 5 a.m. in the morning, whatever they put across.
Well, that's when they pass it.
That's what they pass, that's correct. They give an hour to look after pass, it looks like, so it's good. Thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Questions or complaints? Okay.
Thanks, Becky.
Move to approve fiscal year 2022 budget. Entertain a motion.
I will motion we approve.
Ready?
I will make a motion.
Don't make a motion? You make a motion second? Or you make a motion?
Second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the budget before we take the roll? Just give me time to read that thing, Tom. I know you're still reading.
I'm good.
Scotty?
I'm good.
On the roll.
Aye.
Trustee Curry? Trustee Curry?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Clemson?
Aye.
Trustee Foreman?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, we'll take a few minutes for committee reports, if anybody has had a meeting since then, I know that there has been.
I had a
some.
meeting, but I have a report. But I have to go back to my field there to show you what's happening. So two exciting things. One, we would like to just put to rest here, we've been talking about it for a while, is the scoreboard at Village Park.
Oh, yes.
Ed and Ted Juski met since our last meeting.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, ma'am.
they went with the board's recommendation of the silver with the Johnsburg logo upper left, Skyhawks upper right, and the neutral silver color. So, anything I need to add to that, Ed?
One thing I add, somebody mentioned it to me, but, and I mentioned it to Vinnie, and Vinnie's going to look into it, but they say, well, they play the national anthem, but there's no flag there to stand for the national anthem because the flag is out by the sign by Hillard Park. So I was driving around, I forget where I saw it, because I get a lot of my ideas in the Belvedere and Rockford area, but they had two flagpoles on the post of the scoreboard. And I thought that'd be a great place to have them go up the back of the post, and we'd have an American flag on the left, which is the proper, and the Village of Johnsburg flag on the right as you're facing it. But I think we should have a place for a flag when they play the national anthem that people can see.
Great idea.
So, Vinnie's already on top of that, and he'll have it done in as soon as they hit that scoreboard.
Are you doing that for both high school fields?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was told today, so I'll get it.
What about the Skyhawk field?
I'd be happy to do that there.
Huh?
I'd be happy to do that there.
Okay. So we'll figure that one in too, when we do it. Okay?
Wonderful. So the board, I hope could give you the blessing last time, or gave the committee blessing, so we're going forward with that. And then second is our big party in the Burg. Wait for it. John Barrett put this together. And this is our party in the Burg, Friday, August 6th, 6 to 10. I'm going to pass this around.
Okay.
Vinnie, you want to talk about, maybe we're going to practice putting it out in the
So it's gonna
electronic?
It's already up on the marquee as of today. E-Blast will go as a standalone E-Blast to capture the event, followed up by weekly Friday reminders. If we can ask the trustees possibly to take a sleeve of 10 tickets and sell them, if that's what you'd like, or if you have interested parties. It'll be available at Village Hall to purchase directly through our online app or at the counter in regards to paying for cash or check. For said August 6th event.
We just put it in envelopes like in the past for us, money or something like
We
that?
can do that. We're actually giving you the wristbands as your form of ticket,
Okay.
so they're all numbered and controlled.
We just need to write in the back of the envelope who we gave that wristband to, sold it to.
That'd be great. You guys can help sell the ticket.
Take it back.
So the cap is $150 for the event, but there's really no cap on said day. It's $12 if they pre-purchase, $15 at the door if they just want to show up.
Frost is excellent, so it's good.
Your President Henneman is too, so.
What do you?
You can sell them all, right?
One night. I had people running away from me one night walking with them.
So yeah, wristbands is going to be our ticket in, so.
Be the cheapest thing you ever sold. He's $100 Ed.
He's not saying you can't pay $100 for it.
Right. If you'd like to make a donation.
Anybody is free to pay $100 for that ticket if they want to.
That's all I have.
Greatly appreciate it. Scott?
We did have a Public Works meeting a couple Tuesdays ago. Going forward, they will be the fourth Tuesday of every month, unless circumstances change, at 6:30. Our next one is July 27th, which is the fourth Tuesday. This past one we had, Tim wasn't able to make it, but he called in, and to Vinnie, we had him on speakerphone. He prepped the committee on some of the SSAs, other things that were going on, things like that, got us up to date. Dave was here, went over stuff. Vinnie went through things, explained to people and everything. So it did work out. We did have a quorum, things like that. So for attendance, things like that, we should have that cleaned up by now.
Which brings up a real good thing. If somebody is not showing up for meetings, let me know, and we'll try to get other people involved and do our, Dear John letter that circumstances change and we need people. So I think we're getting close to being full again.
Well, they hadn't had a meeting in a while,
Right.
and personally, I changed it to Tuesdays, so that might have put a couple people. One doesn't have email, so that's physically call him and things like that. So but I think we got the ship going north here. It's good.
Huh?
Nothing new.
Thank you. Josh?
No, nothing new, we're meeting tomorrow, so.
Perfect.
Are we changing our meeting location for committee meetings?
I'm going to bring that up right now. This is the last meeting we'll meet in this room, so if you want to take a picture of how nice it looks, it's not going to be here. So we will be meeting on the second and third Tuesday at...
First and third.
First and third Tuesday at Whispering Hills, and then Planning and Zoning will be meeting there on the third Wednesday.
Right.
Okay, at the Whispering Hills Community Center. So that's where we'll have our meetings going forward, our regular meetings. Committee meetings will still be able to meet in the conference room, okay? So the conference room's available. If you have a situation where you think you need more room, let us know and we'll arrange for it. If you have a topic that's going to bring people in, we probably should make Kyle extra aware of that in case he has something. But otherwise,
So July 6th meeting will be at
Whispering Community Center.
Correct.
And that will be probably till the end of the year, that way. If everything goes good, maybe it'll be faster. The weather's certainly cooperating. If you've looked out there, there's great progress being made, so it looks good. So, but then this room here will now be starting to get tore apart too.
Did you get yourself in that?
One thing real quick on the finance committee too, we did meet last night, so we did review the budget. Becky did a good job with that, but we also look at every month, we look at monthly revenues, so you guys know, so we're all trying to be aware of that for you guys to look at that. And also, we looked at the CPI history, so it wasn't really that, it's like 2%, it was really growing, because I was questioning, are we gonna see inflation and stuff like that, so we're trying to be aware of different things too, but we are gonna look at the, some other stuff next month as well too, and then we have to do the appropriations, so it's behind us next month as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, Becky, if you want to share the report that you're putting together for my committee with them, that would be good.
Yeah, love to see it, thank you.
Claudette, you want?
No, I already just one more.
Rick, Vinnie,
Okay.
Becky?
Wait a minute, you should tell them, go look at the
The most.
fishing deal.
I think we discussed it last
I
time.
saw, everybody's using it now, right?
Yeah, it's being utilized.
You did a hell of a job.
The most popular guy in town, Keith.
Very quick.
Keith, yeah.
Everything's great.
Everything's great? Thank you. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Foreman, second by trustee Letzger. On the roll, trustee Clemson, trustee Hagan, trustee Curry, trustee Letzger, and trustee Foreman. Motion carries.